Freedom on My Mind, written and performed by Mikaela Vargas. Oh my, James! This attic is a dirty mess. What'd you say, James? How long has this stuff been up here? Well, honey, I'd say nearly 40 years. You know how it is. You put up a few tubs of old Christmas lights, and suddenly 40 years of memories get stacked up in boxes and trunks. Tell you what, you start in that box over there, and I'll start going through this stuff right here. Wallpaper scraps? What was I thinking? Definitely trash. Next. 1964? Oh, 1964. Now that was a year. Hey, James, did I ever tell you about the time I worked in Mississippi? Really, Mississippi. We are so young and idealistic. Freedom Summer. That's what we called it. It was a part of the Civil Rights Movement. What? You never heard about it? Come right here, young man, and sit down. Nana's going to give you a first-hand history lesson. Now, I'm sure you know that black people were brought from Africa to work as slaves. It wasn't until after the Civil War, during a time called Reconstruction, that slavery was outlawed and the former slaves were given full citizenship. However, it was the 15th Amendment that brought the biggest change. But there was a big problem. White people didn't want to live under a government run by black voters, especially former slaves. The government forced the 7 states to ratify the new amendments before they could come back into the Union. And when federal troops left the South, white officials wrote laws that restricted blacks' rights. Jim Crow laws. That's what they were called. It was the way the local government instituted segregation. Then, in 1896, Homer Plessy, who was only 1/8 black, sued the state of Louisiana for denying him a seat in a white-only railroad car. The United States Supreme Court ruled Plessy had no right to demand a seat in a white-only car because the railroad applied separate but equal facilities. For the next 59 years, separate but equal ruled the South. Whites only, colored only. These signs were everywhere in the South. Think of that, James. Separate schools, parks, movie theaters, drinking fountains, for heaven's sake. The White Citizens Council and Mississippi State Sovereignty Commission also enforced and supported segregation. But that wasn't the worst of it. White officials established poll taxes and literacy tests to stop blacks from voting. Without the vote, blacks had no power, no voice, and no hope. Then, in 1954, a Supreme Court ruling, Brown versus Board of Education, overturned segregation in public schools by stating that separate but equal is inherently unequal. Because of this, blacks became a little more confident. They were ready to challenge laws and white supremacists. Groups like the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, and Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, united young black Americans for a common purpose. But there were others too. People who were tired of living in fear. People who were ready to confront the brutality of racism. People like Fannie Lou Hamer. It was on August 26, 1962, I attended a voter registration meeting held by SNCC. It wasn't until that night that I knew a New York register. They asked if anyone was willing to go down to the courthouse, and I raised my hand as high as it could go. I guess if I had any sense, I've been a little scared. I went down to Indianola to register. They gave me a literacy test, asked me to interpret the de facto law. I didn't even know what that was. They said I failed. When I got back home, the plantation owner told me, Fannie Lou, you're going to have to withdraw your registration, or you're going to have to leave. We ain't ready for this in Mississippi. So I told him, Mr. Marlowe, I didn't go down to register for you. I went down to register for myself. I left that night because I know I wasn't going back to withdraw. I went to the courthouse to register again. I told the registrar lady, you will see me every 30 days until I pass. The way I saw it, there ain't nothing they could do to me. They couldn't fire me because I didn't have no job. They couldn't put me out of my house because I didn't have one. There ain't nothing they could take from me any longer. You know, they even arrested and beat her for attending a voter registration workshop. She would not be deterred. Fannie Lou was a driving force for the local movement and for the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Her determination inspired us all. I believe that's made her a leader of the movement. Now, James, Southern blacks weren't the only ones who wanted change. Some Northerners wanted to be part of that change too. In fact, The one who was said to have created Freedom Summer was a black man from New York. No, not Bill Cosby. It was Bob Moses. He was a leader with calm courage. In 1961, I volunteered with SNCC to go to Mississippi. After discussing with local NAACP leaders, we determined that voting was the key to change for Mississippi blacks. Only 3% of blacks registered to vote. And with the vote, blacks could take control of their lives and bring about change. Resistance to voter registration was high among the black community. White retaliation was real. Then, I had a thought. We would recruit white volunteers to help register black voters. I welcomed their first group of 250 volunteers to our training center at Oxford Women's College in Ohio. You will live, eat, sleep, play, and laugh with black families. Your presence will break down barriers between blacks and whites. However, when you're in Mississippi, the rest of America just doesn't seem real. Black people are living there like second-class citizens. But by getting our country involved ourselves, we will bring radical change to the South. Now don't go to Mississippi saying you must be Negro. Only go if you understand. Really, understand that his freedom and yours are one. You will need to go out and talk to black people about registering to vote. You will teach them about their history and their literature in freedom schools. You will get resistance from them because they are scared. It's a dangerous project. Our goals are limited. But if we can go and come back alive, then that is something. The most important goal is getting Negroes down to that courthouse to register to vote. Now these, James, are my real memories. The letters I wrote home to my dad and my experiences as a volunteer. June 24th, 1964. Dear Dad, the mood up here in Oxford is very strained with the disappearance of those three civil rights workers. Dead, most likely. Bob Moses said to us that there's no guarantee we will come out of the summer alive. It's up to us if you want to continue on. I don't want myself or anyone I met to have to die. But I just can't comprehend why people must die to achieve something so basic and simple as freedom. A few nights ago, I ate dinner with Rita Schwerner, the wife of one of them. She was telling me about all the great things she and her husband were working on. What does she do now? To help the movement? Your daughter, Sylvie.